Chicago Bears Now is presented by Magic Spoon, the best cereal on the open market. Tons of different flavors, whether it's the cocoa, whether it's the maple waffle, fruity, frosted, and a whole lot more. Get going for $5 off at magicspoon.com/bears. And yes, you got to order it online because you cannot find this delicious cereal in grocery stores. Magicspoon.com/bears. Get $5 off the healthiest and tastiest cereal on the market. All right, today's show, Chicago Bears trade ideas. I'm your host, Harrison Graham, and I cooked up five different trade ideas for the Bears before the NFL trade deadline. So let's go ahead and break all of those down in just a moment. But a little bit of background here. So the Bears 3-4. You know, after 3-2, you're like, oh, man, they might be buyers. Well, you lose to two straight contenders. Neither game is that close. Packers game sort of was, but then the Bucs game obviously was not. That kind of, to me, tells me they should be sellers. Now, the question is, where is Bears ownership with Ryan Pace? Like, have they promised him next year? It's kind of unclear how they view their GM at this point. I think we'll find out this week if they let him buy or if they have him sell or if the Bears don't do much. I think that could be a bit of an indicator on where he is within this team right now, how much leverage he's got with his job at this point. So before we go into my 5 trade ideas, should the Bears be buyers or sellers? Give me a B for buyers, give me an S for sellers, and I think they should be sellers, but at least one of my trades includes them buying, so stay tuned for that. B for buyers, S for sellers. What should the Bears be at the NFL trade deadline? Okay, trade idea number 1. Allen Robinson to the Patriots for a second-round pick. Very simple. 2022, next year's draft. You're not going to get a first for A-Rob. Patriots sitting at 3-4. I think they, if they want to try and make a push with Mac Jones in his rookie year, they could use another weapon on the outside. They've got good tight ends. They've got a good running game, but they don't have that true number 1 receiver. They could use Allen Robinson, and the Bears could use premium draft capital. I don't think you'll get a first for A-Rob. I just don't. I don't think that is going to be out there. I don't think a team will trade you a first-round pick for Allen Robinson. But if you're not going to pay A-Rob, which I think the Bears proved last offseason they're not that motivated to do so, then trading him makes sense, whether it's a second or a third-round pick. If you could get a second, I think you got to take it. A-Rob doesn't seem to mesh well with Justin Fields. I think over time they could get onto the same page, but A-Rob even mentioned, look, Fields not getting those first-team reps in training camp definitely hurt that chemistry or that lack thereof, which that has obviously been on full display through the first 7 weeks of the season. So, hey, maybe he could end up getting traded before the deadline. What do you guys think? Will the Bears trade A-Rob? Not if you think they should, predict if they actually will. Type T for trade him, type K for keep him. We'll make this the pinned comment on today's video. So if you guys get hit with the YouTube ad break, scroll on down and reply with a T or a K at the pinned comment. Trade idea number 2 from yours truly. The Chiefs get Akiem Hicks, and the Bears get a 2022 4th and a 2022 7th-round pick. Now, the chatter I've heard is that the Bears would like to get a 3rd-round pick for Akiem Hicks. I don't think it's likely. Here's why. When Hicks plays, he's still very productive. The problem is the last 2.5 years, he's missed a lot of games. He can't stay healthy. Now, when he's out there, he's good, but he's not always out there. That's the challenge. The Chiefs need pass rush help, and the Bears could use more picks. Is a 4th and a 7th great? No. But Hicks is an expiring contract. He'll be 32 years old. I mean, are you going to re-sign him? Do you want to re-sign Akiem Hicks? I know he would love to remain his whole career in Chicago, but you could still re-sign him even if you trade him. You could say, hey, Akiem, we still have interest in re-signing you, but we got a trade offer. We're probably not going to make a run this year, so we'll revisit that in the offseason. You could do that as well. So we'll see what happens. I'm not convinced Hicks returns next year anyway, so kind of similar to A-Rob. If you're not going to re-sign him or if you have doubts about re-signing him, then trading him could make a lot of sense. What definitely makes sense is for you guys to get the best cereal in the game, and that is Magic Spoon. Guys, Magic Spoon is the perfect way to start your morning, or if you want it to be your lunch meal, your dinner meal, that's an option as well. High in protein, 13 grams per serving. Low in carbs, 4 grams per serving. And 0 grams of sugar. Guys, it's sugar-free, but it tastes like it's packed with sugar. It's the best of both worlds because all that cereal you've been eating since you were a kid is just packed with sugar and bad fats and all that good stuff. Magic Spoon has mastered keeping its cereal delicious while also keeping it healthy for you. No other company is doing what they are doing. Go to magicspoon.com/bears. We'll put a link down in the comments and in the description. That way you guys can get $5 off your first order. It is magicspoon.com/bears. Get going with the best cereal in the game right now. All right, trade idea number 3. This is one of the ones, or the only one, I believe, where I have the Bears buying. They get Andre Dillard from the Philadelphia Eagles, who has played a good amount at left tackle this year, but now he goes back to the bench with their 2 starting tackles healthy. And the Eagles get a 5th-round pick. Now, I think Philadelphia would want a 3rd or 4th, but I'm not giving up a 3rd-round pick right now with where the Bears sit for any trade. And the Bears don't have a 4th at this point. So I'm doing a 5th. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it's not. At the end of the day, Dillard entered the season as their swing tackle, but he's actually been solid at left tackle this year. He's disappointed early on in his career, but this year he's actually played pretty well for Philadelphia. So if you could get him for like a 5th, I think that's pretty good value, and he could be your long-term starting left tackle. Because let's be honest, look, Jason Peters, he's played pretty well this year, but God bless his soul, he's 39. Like, he can't keep doing this. Like, I highly doubt he returns next year. And ideally, you get a young tackle at left tackle, and then you can put Tevin Jenkins back at right tackle. Now, you know, the Bears are probably thinking Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borom are our long-term tackles, but we've basically seen neither of those guys play. So a guy like Andre Dillard, who has played, maybe you bring him on board, and him and Tevin Jenkins are your long-term tackles, and Borom is your swing tackle. Or if Jenkins has injury issues or Dillard doesn't play as well, maybe one of those guys becomes your swing tackle, then Borom starts. The point is, it gives you flexibility. We know that the Bears need more offensive line help and depth, and I think a guy like Andre Dillard could provide both of those things. Not just for this season, but long-term as well. Will it happen? I doubt it. Am I intrigued by it? Absolutely. I think that could be an interesting one if you are the Chicago Bears. So that brings me to this question. What's the biggest need on the Bears roster? Is it tackle? Is it corner? Is it center? I think center's a pretty big need that we're not talking about enough. Let me know. What is the biggest need on the Bears roster at this point in time? And by the way, hit that subscribe button, because guess what? If the Bears make a trade, we're going to break it down, whether we go live or just make a normal video. All trades get covered here. The Akiem Grant trade, boom, we made a video. 20,000 of you guys liked it. So we're going to do all trades. All trades that happen, we'll break them down here on the channel. So subscribe and keep it moving. Let's get to 36,000 subs ASAP at youtube.com/BearsNow. Couple more trades to go. This one with the Saints. How about Robert Quinn to New Orleans for a 3rd-round pick? Now, 6 months ago, Quinn had no trade value, but now he has some because he's played very, very well this year. Is he still a little overpaid? Probably, but the Saints at 4-2 look like a team, they could actually maybe contend this year. They could use a pass rusher. Quinn's value will never be this high with this current contract. He will never have higher trade value. Now, would I be a little hesitant because all of a sudden he's finally starting to play well when you thought it was an awful contract and now it's not as bad? Yeah, I mean, I like how he's playing, but he's also over 30. And if you're not contending, if you could get a day 2 pick for a guy that was untradeable 3 months ago, don't you have to consider that? I think so. In 6 games, he has 5.5 sacks this year. He's played tremendous football for the Bears this year, despite missing the last game on the COVID-19 list. I think you at least have to entertain that as a possibility. If you could get a 3rd-round pick for Robert Quinn, A, you get out of that contract, and B, you get another day 2 pick, and I think that could be very, very valuable. Now, we've talked about 2 of the better pass rushers for the Bears, so who would you trade if you had to trade one? Type RQ for Robert Quinn, type AH for Akiem Hicks. I think the question is who would get you more. I think Quinn would get you a little more at this point in time, but he has kind of a tough contract. Hicks is older, so kind of a tough situation. Let me know. Pick one to trade, RQ or AH. All right, final trade idea, and I don't even know if you can trade Jimmy Graham, but I would take – oh, this is supposed to be Jimmy Graham. Typo on my part. Jimmy Graham for a 7th-round pick. Obviously, the Chargers would trade you a 7th for Robert Quinn. Just ignore that I said Robert Quinn on screen. This is for Jimmy Graham. I don't know if a team wants Jimmy Graham. I doubt it. Keeping him was a mistake. But I think that if you could get even a conditional 7th for him, I would freaking do it. I mean, he basically doesn't even play, guys. Like he gives you hardly any value whatsoever. So I would trade Jimmy Graham even if you only got a 7th round pick for him. So pardon for the typo. We must have had Quinn from the graphic before, but Graham for a 7th. I'd do it, man, because you don't need Jimmy Graham because he gives you nothing. He has 1 catch in 6 games, so not very good whatsoever. Okay, so will the Bears make a trade before the deadline? Simple yes or no question. Y for yes, N for no. Will the Bears make a trade before the trade deadline? I'm guessing they will. Now, it might be a minor one. I doubt we'll see a major one on either a buying standpoint or a selling standpoint, but I bet they at least make one minor move before the deadline. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Now, be sure you guys subscribe to the channel. If you love the Bears, subscribe, sub for Bears Dubs. That's what we're all about here at Chicago Bears Now. Make sure you subscribe today, and we'll continue to plug out as many videos as possible.